So I guess this is somewhat related to what we're talking about here, but what did you make of the Kavanaugh thing?
This is my take. I mean, I've spent a lot of time over the last week paying attention to it.
Oh, really? This happened a little longer than that. Okay, so you just caught up on it, you're saying?
For a while, I was like, this guy's gross. This is gross. I don't want to look at it.
Were you away when the main thing was happening, or you just weren't paying attention to it?
I wasn't paying attention to it. But over the last week, I've paid a lot of attention to it. And here's my take on it. One of the things that got me was, one of the things that got me is it seems like most of his life, in his young life, that guy was fucked up. He was drinking a lot.
Did you read the yearbook? Did you see the yearbook stuff? Okay.
Yeah. And all the stuff about, like, on the calendar, like he had his calendar, and where like things were scheduled, like beers were scheduled. Right?
It's very bizarre.
That's very bizarre.
And he was so like frat boy douchey. Like all the stuff he said was very cliquey.
Yeah, and he also lied. You know?
Oh, endlessly. Yeah, for sure.
That alone is all I need to know.
Yeah, he said boofing is farting, and boofing, of course, means fucking.
Yeah, everybody knows that. That's nonsense. So he's a liar. So and then he perjured himself in saying that.
He did.
I think.
And by the way, the Democrats didn't even mention perjury. They just kind of laid down. My whole thing was, I think it was a gross spectacle, and I honestly, I thought that even the hearings happening, I felt like it was a little bit of a clown show, because it's like, here we are, the most powerful organization, the most powerful body, this government, the United States government, we're having this hearing, and we're talking about drinking that happened in the 1980s.
Right.
It just struck me as so silly.
It is silly.
But at the same time, the thing that I was screaming about, and I may have literally been the only person in the country screaming about this stuff, I actually went through Kavanaugh's judicial record with a fine-tooth comb. And I disagree with him on basically every decision he's ever made, and that's not an exaggeration. He's for warrantless NSA spying. He rules with corporations 87% of the time. He said that all of Obamacare is unconstitutional. He ruled that the EPA cannot regulate greenhouse gas emissions. He even goes as far as to say Donald Trump might be able to pardon himself. So, and that's like...
Well, that was one of the reasons why they think that Donald Trump was getting him in the first place.
Yeah, but think about that's like the end...
He was also a part of the Patriot Act.
Yes. That's like the end of modern civilization type shit, because you can't have somebody above rule of law. That's like a dictator emperor. That's craziness.
Exactly.
So the thing that drove me crazy, Joe, is that here you have, on all those important issues, did you hear a single Democratic politician bring that up in the conversations?
No.
Or wasn't it all about the accusations?
It was all about the accusations.
Now, I'm not saying you can't bring up the accusations at all. I think you can bring it up, especially because some of them, seem to have a decent amount of evidence on their side and seem very measured and reasonable in their comments. So you can bring it up, but it just annoyed me that there wasn't like a two-pronged strategy in trying to defeat him.
Why do you think that is?
Because the Democrats suck, Joe. They suck.
Is it just a suck
It's
thing?
that they suck and they...
Do you don't think there's any pressure to not bring up those issues?
No, well, maybe, I guess maybe a little bit, but Chuck Schumer, for example, cut a deal with Donald Trump just recently, and he let him approve, like, I forget the exact number, you guys can fact check me on this, 6 or 10 different Trump's judges. He cut a deal to approve them so that the Democrats can go back home and campaign for the upcoming election. But it's like, hey, douchebag, the reason why you guys are struggling in elections is because you don't stand for anything. So those people wanted you to fight on those judges because you're not supposed to agree with those judges because that's the goddamn opposition party.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand why they wouldn't bring up all those issues that you talked about before. Here's a Democrats.
There you go, 15. See, I even was too low.
Confirmations of 15 Trump judges. Blah. Ugh.
Yeah, and see, this is my problem with them, is that you could give them an issue. Like, take legalizing marijuana.
Look at that. In exchange, Dems facing re-election can go home to campaign.
Yeah. How ridiculous. And this is what the Democrats do, Joe, is that, like, we were talking earlier about marijuana. 62% of the country now wants legal marijuana. The only Democratic politician talking about it is Bernie Sanders and maybe a handful of others. And if they ran on these issues, and I can name 1,000 others, like raising the minimum wage, ending the wars, if they run on those issues, they'd win, but they just don't do it.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you that Kavanaugh's take on all those issues are pretty fucking vile.
Yeah.
But all those things disturb me. What disturbed me most about what they were talking about in terms of his youth wasn't that he did bad things in his youth. It's that he's lying about them now.
Yeah.
If he said, look, when I was 17 years old, I was stupid like many 17-year-olds, and I drank, but I never raped anybody.
Yeah.
I did stupid things, and maybe I acted insensitively, and maybe I said some things that I shouldn't have said because I was a fool. I am not a fool anymore. And now I am a judge, and now I think I would make a great Supreme Court justice. If he could say that, but he didn't. He got angry, and I watched the video of him saying, "I like beer."
Yeah.
Like, I was like,
do you
what?
like it? He's asking a senator. Do you like it? Do you like it? I like it.
Like, what does that fucking mean? You were talking about you as a teenager when it's illegal to drink, you stupid fuck.
And he also did a little sleight of hand there and said most of the seniors at the time could legally drink. Yeah, why'd you say most of the seniors? We're not talking about most of the seniors. We're talking about you. He wasn't legally allowed to drink at the time. But you're right. You got it exactly right. The problem was the lies. He could have just said exactly what you laid out there, but he didn't do it, which, again, speaks to his credibility.
And it's kind of funny that the one woman, if he did do that to her, the one woman turns out to be a professor at this hugely progressive, super liberal university who it's almost predominantly women. Like, if you looked at how many women are professors at that university and how many women's, I think it's something like 79% of the women or 79% of the students are women at that university, and some large number of the professors are women as well.
Yeah, well, at least one of the allegations were bullshit against him.
Yeah.
And you know who it was, right? Michael Avenatti, that anti-Trump grifter who just wants to get his fucking name in the media. He represented some woman, and there's 1,000 holes in her story.
Yeah.
But this asshole, because he wants to get his name in the spotlight, he adds on to the other accusations, and some of the other accusations do have merit, and he blows up the whole thing. So now the Republicans can turn around and go, look what we got here. Bullshit example, so it's all bullshit.
I think he did an Al Sharpton.
That guy is a scumbag. And by the way, he was just at Politicon where I was.
Yeah.
And he's, listen, he came out of nowhere. And now he's talking about running for president. Who the fuck are you?
I saw someone say that they think he'd be great.
Yeah, well, whoever said that's a fucking idiot.
I think it was Bill Maher.
Well, Bill Maher I used to like him, but he's gotten progressively worse and worse.